Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to share with you a bunch of mistakes I've made when buying and collecting vinyl records so that you guys can hopefully avoid them. There are a lot of things that I'm going to do differently this year when buying vinyl records. In this video, I'm going to share 3 mistakes that I have made and how to avoid them. I feel like anybody can benefit from these tips because they're unique to my experience, but I also feel like a lot of people might have the same issues and maybe make the same mistakes, and it's maybe things that you don't necessarily think about. So this video is great for anyone who collects vinyl records. I've made a ton of videos where I share vinyl collecting tips, so if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe, and I'll leave links to some other videos similar to this in the description and at the end of the video. You guys really seem to like my vinyl tip videos and it seems to really help you guys, so I'm going to be making a few more starting with this one. Let's get started. I'm going to have 3 main topics and then break them each down. I feel like a lot of people who start their vinyl record collection don't really have a plan going in, and you don't have to, but I think it helps a lot of people if you kind of plan out your budget and you plan out how you're going to start and you plan out your storage. I would say if you're new to collecting vinyl, then start small, have a small budget, have a small amount of records you want to get started with, have a small shelf. It's really easy to start small and then eventually grow bigger. If you're starting small, I suggest only buying records that you'll listen to. I know a lot of people buy records just to buy records and have a large collection, which is fine, but if you're just starting out, it's easy to, get caught up in just buying a bunch of records, but it might be easier for you if you only start out with a few records. So don't let people force you into buying records that you don't want, or don't buy records that you don't need or that you don't want to listen to. I know I've bought a ton of records, and as the years gone on, I just haven't listened to them as much as I liked, so don't make that mistake when starting your collection. Start small if you want to, and just have a list of your budget and the records that you want to get started with. I think it's really easy to get into the record collecting hobby if you just start with a plan. It can be as big or as small as you want, but have an idea of what you're getting yourself into. I've made a ton of videos with similar tips that go deeper into this topic, but I just want to briefly touch upon the equipment that you'll need to get started. I almost made the mistake of buying a suitcase turntable. I was gonna buy, I think it was a Victrola. It was about $50. I literally had it in my cart. I was this close to buying it, and then I just did a little bit more research and I decided to go with an Audio-Technica player instead. So definitely do your research, know what you're buying, have a plan. You don't need super fancy, expensive equipment to get started. If you just want to test it out and see if you even like collecting records, then start with something small. And that's why you should have a plan in place first, because if your plan is to have a larger collection one day, then maybe you should invest in something a little bit more expensive and higher quality when you start out. So again, it is okay to start out with one of those suitcase models. If that is your plan to have a small, cheaper collection, you should probably plan out how and where you're going to store your vinyl. Think about the shelving that you want to have, or a crate. When you're starting any hobby, it's great to have a plan going in, and that goes for vinyl as well. So if you don't want to run into some problems in the future, then you should definitely sit down and plan out your collection, how you want to start, how much money you're going to put into it, storage, and everything like that. FOMO, which means fear of missing out. This is kind of a big thing in the vinyl community, so I'm gonna try to help you guys avoid it and share my experiences and my mistakes dealing with FOMO. If there's a record that you really want and then it's sold out, that's FOMO. That's wishing that you would have bought that record when it was available. I have definitely experienced that, and sometimes I think to myself I really should have bought that record. I may have been out the money at the time, but I will still have had the record in my hands and I can make the money back later. These days, especially in, 2023 now, records sell out so fast. I have never seen vinyl disappear so fast, especially if it's a limited pressing, a limited color, if it's signed. Like my favorite artists, like 5 Seconds of Summer, for example, they'll release some signed vinyl and that stuff sells out so fast. I'll think about if I want to buy it and then I'll leave for like an hour and I'll come back to the merch store and it's gone. Like there's definitely a lot of Five Sauce albums I've missed out on. I just waited too long and I should have probably bought it when it was still available. Especially artists that have really big fan bases, their records sell out so fast. So if you see a pressing that you want, just go ahead and get it. You can always make the money back later. And kind of on the opposite end of that, don't buy records too quickly. You can buy records too fast or not buy records fast enough. There are some records that I probably have bought too quickly. Sometimes, like with pre-orders, I'll buy a record too quickly and then later on they announce a deluxe edition of the album or they announce a different variant. So sometimes it is worth it to sleep on a record and really think about if this is the right variant you want. It just depends on the artist or the pressing. Sometimes when artists are dropping a new album, they'll have a ton of different variants. So if you want to, you can go ahead and buy as many as you want. Or sometimes if you wait, they'll announce different pressings. So again, it's kind of hard to tell when you should wait and when you should jump on it, but trust your gut. That is like the #1 tip when it comes to FOMO. Just trust your gut. If you know you're gonna want this, buy it now. If there's a new album announced or a repress or anything like that and you really want it, just go ahead and buy it. That's how I plan on avoiding FOMO this year. The last mistake I'm going to talk about is knowing what you're buying. This is a big thing when it comes to my collection and a lot of record collectors in general. You always need to make sure you know what you're buying. Whether it's on Discogs, eBay, Depop, Mercari, in stores, wherever you buy vinyl from, know exactly what you're buying. On websites like eBay and Discogs, you can usually see a lot of information about the record that the seller says, like the record's condition, if it's got inserts, if it has skips, if there's some parts missing of the record. So it's always good to check on that kind of stuff when you're buying records. I know I have sometimes overlooked things or I didn't read the description good enough. And some of the records I've bought had skips or there were some things missing, like missing outer sleeves or inner sleeves. So always check descriptions, check pictures, check listings, because sometimes it is hard to return records, especially if you buy overseas or you buy on eBay and they don't allow returns. Look at the seller who's selling, check their rating. I wouldn't buy records from anyone who has a lower rating. 100% would be best because that means they're a good seller, they know how to ship vinyl, and you would usually have a good experience. And also see if they offer free returns or no returns at all, because sometimes if you buy a record from them and something happens to it, you may not be able to return it or you may not be able to get a refund, which sucks. I've had some crazy experiences buying records on eBay. I've had records not show up. I've had records that were not described well and they came in worse condition that was described. I've had records literally come damaged, like split in half, which is the one I showed in the thumbnail. Literally like split in half. I bought this on eBay and the seller just didn't package it very well. It cracked in half. And that's really sad because this record, Sounds Good Feels Good by 5 Seconds of Summer, now goes for a lot of money. I did get a refund and everything, but it's just like a lot to have to deal with when records come damaged. So it's always great to know exactly what you're buying, whether it's in stores or online. And to go along with that, you'll want to know exactly what pressing you're buying, like the pressing specifically, because a lot of records have multiple variants, multiple pressings, like repressings. So one album could have like 10 different pressings. My tip for that is to check the UPC code. Most records should have UPC codes on the back, so you can actually like scan that on Discogs and it will bring you to exactly which pressing that is, so that's really helpful. So it's always great to know exactly what pressing you're buying because that will also help determine the cost. Some records are priced really expensive or really cheap for a reason. Like if a record is really cheap, it could be because it's a common pressing and it's not rare. Some records might be really expensive because it is a rare sold out pressing, so that's why it is expensive. But then also you don't want to be like scammed. You don't want to pay for a record that you can get somewhere else for cheap, because some people might be trying to scam you with the price if they don't know exactly what pressing it is they have, or they do know what it is and they're trying to scam you. If you can, check out the runout information on the vinyl itself and also look at the label, because all of that information is there to tell you what type of pressing you have, and Discogs will also tell you like the price for a record, which is usually a good way to tell the actual price of it. So don't overpay for a record if you don't have to. So again, it's really important to do your research when buying vinyl. Know exactly what pressing you're getting, and this goes for new and used vinyl as well. Those are the 3 main mistakes that I've made when collecting and buying vinyl. So I wanted to make this video to help you guys avoid the mistakes that I made. Hopefully this video was easy to follow and it helped you guys out. I know going into this year I'm going to be a little bit more careful when buying vinyl to help avoid some of those mistakes. In the comments, let me know if there's any vinyl mistakes you've made and tips and experiences that you want to share to help out other people. And if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!